Hey, welcome back to the show. And joining us today is Clem Chambers, the founder of A New FN. Clem, how you been? It's good to see you.
Well, I've been eating fermented shark, and I've been eating whale. Oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Oh, you are, because I'm in Iceland. And I've also been eating puffin, which is a cute bird. But when you're desperate for food, like the Icelandics have been for 1,000 years, they eat cute birds. And guillemots, which is like a big black seabird, which is very tasty. So I've been tasting the local flora and fauna, and I've just come back from a glacier.
Love it,
Throws
love
my
it. You
ears
know, you
off.
mentioned you mentioned the fermented shark, and you had me thinking of. I think it's called the Greenland shark, where it lives like 500 years or something like that. I mean, obviously you're in Iceland, but I presume.
Yeah,
I
well, the
mean,
Greenland shark is interesting because this is where my irony bone hits. It's sort of like, oh, do you know that there's this Greenland shark? It lived for 600 years. And you say, how do you know that? Well, we killed it and we found out. It's like,
yeah, yep.
but anyway, the reason why they do fermented shark is certain sharks don't have a rear end. They don't poop. They have to sweat it through their meat. So they actually have to perspire what we would otherwise, go to loo with. So it gets totally full of ammonium. So it smells of ammonia, like a floor cleaning fluid, because that's what happens if you break down your food and sweat it through your skin and muscles. So when they kill them, being starving Icelanders 500 years ago, they go, we've killed one we can eat for a year, and oh no, ammonium, they can't eat that. So they would bury it for like 9 months, and all the ammonium would come out, and then they would dig it up and eat it. Well, these days they cut it into slabs and put it in drawers and leave it outside, and the ammonium actually evaporates off. But you can still taste the ammonia, and if you eat it and go and breathe out, you get like ammonium fumes, which is kind of interesting, and I kind of like it. But there you go, I'm weird like that.
Well, I have never had a fermented shark, and so that is something I'll have to put on my bucket list, so to speak. Um, wow. Well, yeah, I guess what we could start off. For it's great having you on. Thanks for carving out the time. A lot of interesting things going on around the world. It's a very volatile period, no doubt. Perhaps you can situate us as it relates to kind of your latest high level thoughts, whether it's financial markets, geopolitics, state of society. Just we can go in a million different directions. So I'll hand the mic over to you, Clem.
Well, I mean, to an extent, it is a very volatile period. But this time last year is even more volatile when President Trump came out and said, hey, we're going to put tariffs on the world and they're going to be high. And the market went, boom. And I think it was probably the Treasury went, no, we don't like that. Pulled the lever, printed the money, and up it went again. So that was pretty interesting. And I managed to miss that. And I wasn't expecting it to do a V-shaped bottom, but I did get back in. And I've had a fantastic, President Trump has made me literally a fortune. So if you're a Trump whisperer, then there's huge money to be made in the market if you call what he's going to say its impact correctly. So, the moment, I can't pronounce his name, Heathcliff, the guy who used to be the Secretary of Defense, who's now the Secretary of War, when he spoke in Europe and said, I'm going to throw you under the bus, guys. We're off to deal with Asia. I just bought a load of European defense stocks, which is not something I'd normally buy, which is a pity because if I'd known more about them, I would have bought better ones. But I still made a ton of money. But, Orion Metal, which is the German military company, which makes the shells. And boy, are they going to need them if things carry on like they are. They're the big makers of the big, brassed things you stick in the end of a howitzer and pull the lever on. And they went up woof like that. But, the other ones in the UK went woof as well. And now I'm a little bit in American defense stocks. Lockheed Martin, for example, which has gone up 25% since I bought it, which is dirt cheap, and it's still dirt cheap. I mean, you look at one NVIDIA, we've sold a little bit of stuff. Oh, look, 60 times sales. Yes, please. And you look at Lockheed Martin, 1 time sales. And it's not as if they're not a technology company. It's not as if they're not doing the toughest stuff that humans have ever done. Because, flying planes at huge speed and dropping a lump on a pinhead N miles away. I mean, it doesn't get cleverer than that, really, apart from maybe going to space with Elon. And they're like one-time sales or whatever they are, nothing in comparison with anything like Nvidia, which is off the dial expensive. So, and they pay a dividend. A dividend, one of those. Oh yeah, American dividend. That's a unicorn right there. I think 1.5%. So you could buy them, hope that we don't have the Third World War, watch global stress go up and the price of their stock go up, and still get 1.5% away and get a cheap stock. So that was my thinking. One part of it. The other part of it was already in place because I'd spotted gold and thereby silver going mad, and I'd spotted that platinum and palladium was going to be a thing because, we've lived in a world where the narrative has been, yada, 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 boys are girls and girls are boys, and the polar bears are going to drown, and we can't have cars with engines and all that stuff, and windmills are it and all that. And I'm actually for all that. In a way, I totally grok that. We really don't want to die in an environmental holocaust. I mean, I am in Iceland and they chopped down all the blooming trees, every single one of them. There is no trees in Iceland because the people cut them down because they had to have fuel. So they have no trees. And they've been furiously replanting them recently. But for the first 1,000, I think it took about 300 years to chop them all down. So they had an environmental catastrophe because they chopped all the trees down. But, they survived. But people can create environmental disasters, and they have done that over the years. So not wanting to do another one's very sensible. However, it's all about the narrative. When everybody's saying you're naughty, your plastic bottles have to have their lids attached by a piece of string to the bottle, you get to an extreme part of that narrative, and everybody can't even say that's nonsense. That is, they're not even allowed to speak it, and then suddenly the narrative changes because of whatever geopolitical reason, or all the bureaucrats realize they're not going to get their pension because they haven't got enough economic growth, and they're going to get elected out because they're trying to cheat by bringing in cheap labor, and that don't work neither. And they go, all of a sudden the narrative goes whoop, and all of a sudden, nuclear power, yes, we like that. Let's have some of that. Let's have lots of that. That's great. Oh, coal, yes. When we said it was bad, what we meant, it was good. And internal combustion engines, yes, we need some of them now. Yes, we like them. Oh, yes. ICE, excellent. Yeah. And then, of course, your platinum and palladium, which was all going to end up not having a use, suddenly, bang, you've got to put it back in cars. And bang, up goes the price from $1,000 an ounce to what it is now, $1,900 or whatever. And soon to catch up with gold probably in the next 2 or 3 years. Because if you are going to go hell for leather for economic growth, you're going to onshore, you're going to have a conflict with China, who makes all your stuff. And you've got to reindustrialize because you're going bust. And you've got to have energy because energy is life. Well, you better have platinum and palladium, because to remediate that pollution, you need platinum and palladium. And they only make 200 tons of it a year of platinum and 200 tons a year of palladium. And some of it's made in Russia. Some of it's made in South Africa. Thank goodness some of it's made in Canada. And guess what? You make this gold, 3,200 tons a year of gold. Okay, that's an interesting number. They dig it up. What happens to it? Well, I mean, it goes into vaults and it goes onto people's fingers and on their Rolexes and all that good stuff. But it doesn't get lost. It used to get lost a lot, which is why governments didn't like to give their peasants money, because they had a finite supply of copper, and the blooming peasants would drop it in the field and lose it. And where are you going to get more from? But these days, that doesn't get lost. So 3,200 tons goes into the vault. It's another 3,200 tons. It's another 1.5% of global supply. Gold inflation, actually. Maybe a higher percentage, because you think about the free flow of gold is much lower than the amount out there, which a large amount is basically locked up and never moves. But anyway, platinum, 200 tons, not 3,200. And guess what happens to it? It gets blown out the back of cars. It gets blown out of your cat converter onto the road. So platinum and palladium, roughly speaking, the amount they dig up is consumed. So there's no growing backlog of it. There's no strategic reserve building up. And they can't build it up because it's getting used. So which way is that asset going, I wonder? Maybe. So, all these things have gone into reverse. And so all the sackcloth cloth and ashes. We don't want any energy. Oh no, stop using it. No. You've got to cover your house in insulation for forever and ever and ever. And no, don't do that, and don't go here, and don't use that energy. Oh no. That's all gone. That's all gone away, or hasn't gone away yet. You can still hear it. You can still hear people going, oh, bah, 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 bah. And where once before it was everybody saying it and lining up in rank and file to say, yes, we believe in this. Yes, we believe in that. Suddenly, because of President Trump, it has to be said. Everybody's saying, actually, no, that's stupid. That is. We shouldn't be doing that. No. Energy's life. We need more energy. No, we haven't got enough. The economy in Germany is collapsing because they blew up their nuclear power stations and they haven't got enough power now. So, the story has changed. And because of that, lots of assets are repricing, have repriced, will reprice. And, there are events that happen that maybe even you don't know what they are, but you can see them in the market. And something happened at the end of January. Somebody pulled a big lever, ka-chonk, which may well be Japan, because Japan has changed its strategy entirely. And, that has big economic ramifications. And if you can work out what they are and how they will continue and what's the strategic positioning of that, make a lot of money, make a hell of a lot of money, make huge amounts of money.
Could you unpack that a bit about Japan and so on and so forth, and kind of what you're observing?
Okay, I'm going to be perhaps a little bit controversial, perhaps a little bit unexpected. So the Japanese have had a long-term strategy, which is shrink the population. There's too many people in Japan, say the government to themselves. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to drop the population. Yeah, we're going to do it in a certain way where the population falls and we'll have a lot more room, and maybe we'll get back the population to 1950. Now, to do that, you have a deflationary environment, and they've had a deflationary environment. And deflation makes everybody a little bit more conservative, makes everybody not go for growth, makes everybody a little bit, pulling in their neck, as they would say. Yeah, it's not an aggressive environment. And because of that, and they don't let people come and become Japanese, so they haven't had immigration. So because of that, they've been in retrenchment. I mean, everybody says like, oh, Chinese, their population is going to fall. Oh, isn't that going to be terrible for them? No, it's not going to be terrible for them. It's going to be great. That's how if you keep expanding your population, you stay poor. It's when you stop expanding your population, and even if your population starts to drop, you get the ultimate luxury. And the ultimate luxury is space. In the UK, they've had raising population, and the houses get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And you get more and more like a battery chicken, and you get more and more stressed, and there's more and more cars on the road, and there's the same amount of money and less to go around, and things get more expensive. But expanding the population to expand your economy so you can tax it and pay the bureaucrats' pensions, that is not great for the peasants like me and you. Yeah. So the best thing for the peasants is for the population to start shrinking. They get more room. They get higher pay because there's less supply of them. And that's a benefit. And you get more room. I mean, France is a wonderful country because their population density is so low, because of the fact that, they had a bad run after the French Revolution. I mean, the French population went from, I think, 30 million to 60 million since the French Revolution. The German population went from 6 to 60 million. And the British went from 6 to 60 million. Okay, which tells you something about not wishing for having a revolution. But it also tells you that when you drive through their beautiful countryside, why it's like that, because the density of population is less. So anyway, Japan, I believe, had a systemic strategy to shrink the population back to sort of like 1950s levels, which was about 60 million people, from 125 million or 150 million, however many people there is. And we all know when you go to Japan, there's a lot of Japanese, and there's not a lot of space, and they live in small houses, etc., etc. And then, of course, all the money comes down from the old people to the young people, so they inherit a lot of money. So that's great. The state gets a lot of tax from death duties. That's great. There's more space and there's more money, and you can spend more resources on education, and you can push up that country up the value chain. Yeah. But I think they've decided to maybe not do that so much, and maybe go a little bit on the front foot, devalue their currency, get going with their industry, get a little bit more, fighty, have a little bit more of a military thing going on, and all that multipolar world stuff. So that has taken them from a country with negative interest rates to a country with interest rates. And obviously that's a big change in their economic model. And the model of the carry trade from Japan, where people borrow in free yen and buy American assets, which pay a dividend, well, that's kind of going into sort of clunk, bang, clunk, clunk, because, you know, you're going to get a big dislocation. You're going to get volatility caused by those sorts of things. And that's where the central banks come in, and they try to smooth that all over and make it all work out okay, and, you know, lend each other confetti to make sure that there's no horrible clashing of gears and grinding of whatever grinds. So there's that's going on. And you've seen gold and silver go through the roof and platinum and palladium go through the roof. And that's kind of put the cat amongst the pigeons. And you're seeing Bitcoin collapse. And you're seeing everybody now. Well, I think what's going on, everybody says, oh, you know, everyone's worried about AI replacing this. And that's a load of old nonsense. What is actually going on is the hyperscalers are ringing up the banks and saying, can I have a trillion, billion, zillion in cash, please? Good interest rates. And the banks are going, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're our best customers. Yeah, sure, of course you can. And then someone else is ringing up and saying, can I have my 100 million for this? No, I think we're lending it to somebody else. So the hyperscalers are sucking liquidity out the market really, really heavily. And that's causing all sorts of confusions and conniptions. And people, obviously, they say when a market has a systemic change, they always blame it on someone. They say it's him, he did it, or that company did it. That name caused this avalanche, not that the avalanche was caused by too much snow. So you're seeing these hyperscalers basically borrowing vast sums, going from, you know, cash flow positive beasts of cash flow positiveness into beasts of cash flow negativeness to build out the AI boom. And, you know, that has an implication because markets are all driven by cash flows. You know, the flow is way more important than even the news, because if people run out of money, or there's not the money to go into the market, it doesn't matter how good the news is, there's not the money to go in. And what's happened in America is the Fed and the Treasury, no doubt, but particularly the Fed, have navigated by pumping money into the economy so that their thermometer has been the stock market. And if you look at the stock market, it's totally smooth. And then somebody said something stupid and down it goes, oh, and it turns around straight away and goes, you know, smooth again. And, you know, they use the stock market as a thermometer. And probably, you know, the more you push it up, the more trickier it gets. So, you know, we're in a stage now where the money they would normally be pumping in that would go around the system and end up in the equity market is going around the system and ending up in NVIDIA making machines and people building out these huge power plants and building nuclear power stations and all that stuff, all that onshoring and all that AI build out. So the money's now not necessarily going into equities, but it will, because they'll just print more. But obviously there's a transition phase where you're going to get lots of craziness because they haven't necessarily worked out how to do it smoothly or how to do it best or know how much they need to do it for and who's doing what to whom and what the impact of doing it will be. But ultimately, once they've got this out of the way, and it shouldn't take too long, then you will see things kind of going back to normal. But you'll also see that over the next year, 18 months, 2 years, you'll get a pickup in inflation again. And what is now, whatever it is, 2.5%, 3% over, I think it's 2% in Europe, which is, you know, impressive. It will head back up to 5 to 7% over the next 2 or 3 years.
Now, the craziness that you just mentioned earlier, what can you dive into that a bit for us? And then what I mean, obviously no one has a crystal ball, but what do you see coming down the pipeline? What are some trends and things that you're tracking currently, Clem?
Well, there's several really, really big issues. Okay, the ultimate big issue is a certain guy in the White House. Yeah, and he is calling the tune pretty much for everything. Okay, so, you know, the White House, and I'm sure the Democrats would do this, they'd say, AI, we don't like it. No, we don't like that. We don't like crypto, and we don't like AI. No, you can't have money for that. No, stop that. Oh, here's some rules. You're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to show the president of America in a mankini with AI. You've got to stop this, you've got to stop that. But if you don't do that, by the way, that would be a really terrible thing to do, and that would doom America forever. But it's quite easy to do things that doom countries. I think Holland just did something similar. They've going to introduce, so they say, tax on unrealized gains, which will basically just kill their industry stone dead. Yeah, well, to kill the stock market at the very least, and then what? How do public companies fund themselves? Oops, people aren't investing in us anymore. Oh no. So anyway, yeah, or who knows what will happen there. But they're thought about doing that in America. Someone said, "Oh, we should. Oh, these bloody billionaires, we don't like them. That we're jealous, so we need to start taxing, them to death until they leave. And why don't we tax unrealized profits? Yes, let's do that. And then we'll show them. Yeah, well, if you do that, you kill your stock market. And if you kill your stock market, right now, you kill America, because at the moment, really, America is the stock market. And, all the making stuff, all the workshop of the world, that got abstracted out and sent abroad. So, the abstraction layer is that of the stock market and all those clever derivatives and all those weapons of mass destruction. So if you then go to your clever abstracted layer, yes, we're this wonderful aristocracy, and we're not making food anymore. Oh, we're all going to die. Yeah. So don't attack the abstraction layer. And if they were to do that in the US, if they did a unrealized gains tax in the US, it would literally just destroy the stock market, and that would be it. That would be it. It will be the mother of all collapses. But they're not going to do that. But they are going to build out AI, because if you're not first in AI, or at least as good as the top guy, or close enough, you're finished. You're just finished. And America knows that. China knows that. Funny enough, that's a big hairy deal for both of them. Funny enough, they're going hammers and tong on that. And because we're in a conflict, we have an adversary, whatever that means. We have an enemy and we have a war. Oh, no, let's not call it a war. Let's call it a trade war. Oh, that war word again. Let's call it Anyway, we've got adversaries, and they are smarter than us, and we're going to win. Not. Yeah. So you've got to win the AI war. And to win the AI war, you've got to build out like crazy. Well, you can't suck all the money into that and everybody else goes singing. Otherwise, you're going to have an economic issue, aren't you? You're not going to have enough money in the system. So you have to print more money. You have to go Control P, and then send more money out. So all the people that are doing what they normally do can have their debt. I mean, there's not a S&P 500 company that could repay its debt tomorrow and not go bust. So if you said, you've got to pay all your debt back tomorrow in cash, or when it comes due, they'd all go bust, every single one of them, if they couldn't roll their debt, right? So you have to enable there to be enough money for corporations to roll their debt. Otherwise, you just don't have an economy. That's the whole point of debt. Money is debt. Economics is all about, the application of capital, most of which is debt. So you have to print more. Well, meanwhile, all that money is going to go into the AI hyperscalers and back out the other end, and all the HVAC engineers are going to be making triple pay and buying nice cars, and all those NVIDIA investors are going to be buying islands and all that stuff. So it's inflationary. It's a boom. It's a boom thing. You have to go for the boom, otherwise you lose. So you have to go for hell for leather. Run it hot. Yeah, well, run it hot means inflation, right? I mean, it's almost a synonym. So we're going to get inflation, and that won't do precious metals any harm. Won't do anybody any harm unless you're not doing anything and you've just got savings in cash. That's the trouble, right? If you're economically passive, dear, oh dear. And if you're economically active, you go, yay, free money. I'm working hard and making fortunes. Yay. But, the economically passive get hammered. So they have to really get on the train of the stock market and scale up on that, which is probably why they see your show. If you're economically active, even if it's just as an investor, you'll be fine. But if you're just economically passive, your inflation will eat you alive.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating to just watch and observe what's going on out there. I mean, especially for your average Joe, walking down the street, so to speak. I hear a lot about things becoming more and more bifurcated, and it is interesting to just see the different wrinkles that make up that.
Well, I mean, they talk about the K-shaped economy. Okay, they talk about that, and I kind of get it, but then I also get the fact that a lot of people are not really doing a great deal of work, and you try to get through to them, it takes you 4 days, and they're not really putting that back into it, and they're working from home. Oh, I do all my work in an hour and a half. Why do I need to work any harder? Well, normally because they're paying you for 8 hours, not for 1.5. How about you do 6 times the work then? Ooh, did I say that? So there's a reckoning. There's a reckoning, and as I say, the passive are going to have a hard time. And I say something that's very unpopular when I say it to people. I say, well, if you want to change your life, get rid of your television. I mean, for a start, your wife will leave you, but if you got rid of your television and you spend the hours you spend watching television, studying, anything you like. I mean, get a open course. I'm sure you can get. I don't know about America, but I'm pretty sure you could get a degree cheaply from study from home. Yeah, I mean, you're not talking about billions and trillions like if you go to med school. You could spend a few $100s and get a BA in something. Yeah, and if you spent all the time you watch television on studying for a interesting degree, you spend a few $100s and you get a degree. And you probably get it in 18 months. And then you could get another one in another 18 months. You could get another one in another 18 months. And after 10 years, you'd have 6 degrees. You'd probably be a PhD in something. Yeah. But people never say how hard done by they are. And then they say, nobody loves me. And they go watch television all night. Yeah. And so, as a workaholic, I'm a workaholic. I don't know about this K-shaped economy. Oh, there was a time it was so wonderful and blah, 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 blah. It's the classic one. Okay, first of all, if you take all these memes and you study them and then you place them in any one of two camps, Chinese propaganda, Russian propaganda, you'll be amazed how many of that comes out of there. One of them that I hear a lot of is like, first of all, divide and conquer. Okay, if anybody wants to be happy, throw away their media. They'll be happy pretty quick. Okay, but if you listen to the media, you hear these memes like, "Oh, people can't afford houses until they're X, Y, and Z, till they're in the 30s." When I was a kid, I couldn't afford a house until I was 28, and I was running a business with 30 people in it. So I don't see that in the reality I came from. But everybody's absolutely sure that young people at 20 had houses. Did they when you were young? I know you're pretty young, but did 25-year-olds own houses when you were a kid?
Yes and no. I actually I actually got a house at that age, partly because I was in the military, so that helps, right? You get your VA, but I grew up in an area where it's not exorbitant the cost, but I would
You
say
were in the Shenandoah Valley, weren't you?
yeah, no. So I'm in my early 30s, and so to answer your question, yeah, most people do not own homes. I mean most people that in my social world, yes, they own homes, but yeah, most people it's out of reach. So
But
I
when
know that
I
was
was
long winded.
20, which is a few years ago, nobody had houses unless it was in the really, really, really out of the way, deprived areas where you could, where it was all slums. But nobody was buying a house until they were 30. And that would be 30, that would be like, that would be late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. People weren't buying houses as kids then. But anyway, it's the idea that if you look back, everything was so much better then. And is it? I don't know. There's so much propaganda out there. There's so much divide and conquer. Oh, those old people are so this, and all these young people are so that, and all this gender is this, and all this gender is that. And it's driving people mad, and it's making people scared. and it's making people really unhappy when they shouldn't be. And so I think, if you want to make money, or you want to get on, or you want to be happy, the first thing to do is really, really edit the media that you consume. I mean, right now, I'm making a load of people really annoyed. I can tell you. Right? They watch. See if they switched it off. No, maybe not. If they switched it off, they wouldn't. They'd be fine. They'd be fine. They could be looking at something nice. They could be watching a waterfall on their 18-foot wide TV screen rather than watching someone getting mown down or whatever ugliness was going on. And of course, they could be studying the markets. I mean, the amount of I used to run a site, had 3 million different private investors. And I've got a new one up now, and it's got, brand spanking new, but probably got 100,000 private investors every month. And I've got 50,000 on my channel, on my YouTube channel, Clem Chambers Alpha. And I don't normally talk about this. I'm normally talking about how you can make money. And I've helped people make quite a lot in the last few months. But from standing start, 50,000 people who are watching what I'm doing, studying how to make money, studying how not to be poor, studying how not to be destroyed by inflation, studying. And I'm not stressing them out. I'm not telling them that there's the pygmies in the Congo are this, or some guy's bombing that, or there's a war over here. You don't have to consume all that horrible stuff. You don't have to be scared to death about everything. You don't have to think the world's coming to an end. But if you go onto the Google News and read it, the takeaway is it's all over. It's all over for humanity. If there's not an asteroid about to hit, it's going to be another plague. It's going to be the elite of this society, doing terrible things or whatever. This is simply not true. And there's a lot of money, a lot of opportunity in the market. But I'll tell you what, all these people that are stressed out by this, they haven't read an investment book. They'll be on an investment site trying to find out they won't have read the 10 best, most read, highly regarded books on solid investing. You could, 3 days, read a book, leave it a month, read another book, read another. At the end of, how much would you spend? You spend 10 bucks, so you spend $100. Yeah, you spend $100, and by the time of it, if you paid attention, you'd be fabulously geared up to make a load of market in the stock market, load of money, load of money. As long as you don't buy books that say how to trade your way to success in 6 minutes, good old Benjamin Graham books, and good old Warren Buffett books, and good old Random Walk Down Wall Street kind of books. Yeah. You'd be in a fabulous situation. It'd be absolutely fabulous situation to do well. So, this is my new joke. There's the www, right? And you thought it was the World Wide Web, but it's actually the worldwide whinge. Everybody's out there whinging. Whinge. No, that's not the answer. Whinging is not the answer. Whining, worldwide whine is not the answer. Worldwide wealth. There we are. That's why they come on your channel, for worldwide wealth. That's a tongue twister, isn't it? And it's there to be had. It's absolutely there to be had. Absolutely there to be had. I mean, look what gold just did. Look what silver just did. Yeah, if you know how to handle that, you get the rocket, and you don't get the rock at the other end. Yeah, so much opportunity in the financial markets if you are diligent and hardworking, and you just crack on. Get rid of television, start studying finance. In a year, you'll be an expert you'll be able to get a job in finance, frankly. It's all there to be had. It's all there to be had. And people just fritter away themselves on trivia. I mean, it's hard not to, right? You go on to, I can't do it. If I go onto TikTok, I'm so appalled by it. I start, I can't watch it. But, even Twitter, there's a cat. What's that guy doing? Oh, he fell off his motorbike. What's that? Oh, there's a hill. The rocks are rolling down. Read a book of knowledge. I don't want to do that. If I do that, I might have to think, somebody said to me once. Anyway, enough of that. Talk to me about the markets. You can cut all this out. This is all nonsense.
Oh, no. Well, I just wanted to comment on what you said, because you're 100% right. I can think of people who will spend an enormous amount of time over the weekends, whether it's watching sports or engaged in something else, sports betting here. I mean, that's just blowing up these days, to a myriad of other things. But if they just allocated a little bit of time, and I'm not saying this as someone who has made it, or I'm not trying to, posture myself in that way, but I will say even just a little bit of time, it's amazing how much it compounds. I'll use the show, for example. I first started doing this show, Clem, because I was listening to various people talk about the financial markets, and I was pretty bereft of my understanding of that. And I wanted to bring on people to just literally learn. And so if somebody listening were to just literally, you don't have to do one on the financial markets, it could be on anything, but just even like doing a show, like instead of watching something, you just had a guest on, it'll completely change your life. Like doing this show, and I've been doing it since breakfast, has completely changed my life. Like
Christian, it's real
completely
simple.
changed it.
You're either a consumer of media or you're a creator of media. And going forward, that's going to be the difference between the quick and the dead. If you're not making media, you're going to be consuming it. And that is, people won't want to hear this because they're not creators, but they can be. But getting over that hump, it was probably quite to get over it. But once you're over it and you're creating, you get into a rhythm, you get good at it, and you learn a few things like nobody cares about you and nobody's watching, and it doesn't matter whether you've got your hair all over the place. That's a bit of fun. And you learn about it and you get good at it and you get paid. You get paid. I get paid a lot. And anybody can, if they become a creator rather than a consumer. The consumer is at the wrong end of the pipeline. And, in this future world of AI, it's really going to be between two sorts of people, creators and consumers. And the consumer will be the poor and the creator will be the rich. And that is coming to a world near you soon. Yeah. So anybody that wants to, think about that, it's not 100% right, but it's an insight. It's like, I really do want to upset a few people who are watching this channel. It's like when you watch an American football match, it's the same end people in the same jackets running up and down the same green square. For how many years? Yeah, it's the same story over and over again. It's like boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back again. There they are doing that. Same thing. It's exactly the same thing every week. And it's hard to know. It's just the coloured shirts running up and down a large piece of green. And, if you look at it like that, which is I would, you go, that's crazy. And if you're totally into it, you say, but that's Bilbo Baggins. He's a fantastic. He threw 87 feet last week and he runs at 26 miles an hour and he's won this trophy.
Yeah, no. I was also going to mention, I'm totally blanking out on what I was going to mention to you. It's related to, just society and how people are and what they can do. Oh yeah. Now I know. Look, this is what happens when you're not taking coffee or you're not getting your caffeine in me. Because I'm, yeah. Well, I'm traveling and I haven't been sleeping as much, so it's like my brain isn't functioning there. What was I going to comment on in that? Yeah, it is interesting how yeah, just even a little bit of time can make the difference. And damn, I'm totally blanking out on what I was going to mention to you. Oh yeah, just even outside of the financial markets. I mean, if people read, look, I don't know about you, but I'm coming more and more to the conclusion that I feel like a lot of things are theatrics out there on the world stage. And I might sound like cuckoo la la land, but it's so it just there's so many rabbit holes to go down.
It has got really worse. There's so much fake out there. There's never been so much fake. Fake is just absolute pestilence. Yeah. And so really it's almost the good stuff is you have to find it amongst the fake. It's like when you were a kid and there would be this box of junk coins in an antique shop and thousands of different coins. You have to go through them to find the one that you wanted, or a load of Pokemon cards. You have to go through them all to find the good one that you need. Yeah. And life's getting like that for everything. It's like, fake offers. You go to a fake hotel that said it had this, it doesn't have it. And, all this fakery. I mean, and you see it with AI now. There's so much stuff. You really have to not believe anything. Which again, do you know, funny what? That is classic Soviet propaganda, is to undermine trust in the government of its adversary, undermine trust in the institutions of government and the rules of law, etc., etc. That is absolute. You can go look it up. You can look up historical Russian propaganda, and you will see acres of it. And you go, blimey, I'm looking at that on my media right now. Oh, I just saw that on CNBC. Oh, I just saw that on the Wall Street Journal. Oh, I just saw, because this there is without a doubt a propaganda war going on. Okay, and actually, the funny thing is this. Let me ask you this simple question: How is there anywhere in America where there's 500 people in a building writing propaganda to attack the enemies of America? Yes or no?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
You reckon? Oh, I don't think so. I think you'd have that all over the newspaper. Do you realize that building down there has got 500 people that are writing press releases that are blah, blah, blah? No, you don't have that. You certainly don't have that in England. Certainly don't. I don't know anywhere in Europe that has it. Well, they certainly have it in Russia. They certainly got it in China. Yeah. I mean, yes, there is an outreach, a propaganda outreach that you see, Voice of America or the BBC or Agence France Presse and all those guys may be fighting the last propaganda war, but not the current one. I don't think the American government are hosing huge quantities of random bot traffic onto X. Do you?
Who knows? Maybe I should say. I'll rephrase this. How about the alphabet agencies?
Well, but do you think you see it? I don't see that. I don't see it. I mean, there's an element of it, but there's not like the amount of Russian bots you'll get if you'll say anything about Ukraine. Yeah. And they're all over the place. So, this propaganda war, I mean, I hope you're right. I don't hope you're right, really, because I don't think any of the Western government should be out there lying their faces off to try to brainwash us. Yeah. But certainly other governments trying to do it. In fact, this is just shows you how insane it is. The Iranian government did a propaganda attack on Scotland when they were having their referendum on splitting up with Great Britain, their independence referendum. Iran trying to mess up Scotland. I mean, why? Duh. That's how mad it is out there, and it is mad, and it's certainly driving people mad. I mean, I don't know how many people who are totally stressed out by all this crazy stuff that they're saying on the internet. It's a change in gears. We're in a new epoch. And that's what people should remember. We're in a new epoch. And it's a massive opportunities out there. And the worst thing you can do is be scared. Yeah? Because it's a mirage. And that's really where I'm trying to get at. There's a kind of a philosophical concept of the simulacrum, which is, well, you said, so much of it is performative. Well, did you know that's Marxist theory?
Mm-mm.
No, that's Marxist theory. That's the situationalists. Which were 1950s Marxists. So you've been inculcated already with a Marxist idea of it being a stage and of it being a performance. Yeah. Go look up the situationalists. You've got now. Here you go. If you want to go with propaganda, whose idea is left wing and no? Whose idea is working class, middle class, and upper class? Who came up with that idea?
I'm assuming Marx.
Yeah, Marx. So there you are. You've got the president of America saying we're looking after the working class. Oh, well done, Conrad. So that idea, which Karl Marx invented, Mr. Marxist himself, came up with that idea, and there we are talking about it in politics. Shouldn't we be saying that's Marxism? We shouldn't really think of it like that. Which is particularly funny in America, where everybody's called middle class, when in fact they're all working class. Yeah. I said, where'd your working class go? The squeezed middle? No, they're not the squeezed middle. They're the squeezed that bit. Oh, nobody wants to be called working class. I know, but they are. They have to go and clock in and work 9 to 5. I think that's what's called working, isn't it? Oh, no. It's the working class. Well, where's your... Sorry, it's the middle class. Where's your working class then? Oh, they're a small group of people? Really? I thought they were meant to be the big group of people, and the middle class were meant to be there, and the upper class were meant to be like a tiny little group of them. Yeah, but no, oh no. That bit is the middle class, but forget that lot. So you can see how ideas get morphed and changed and reorganized, and you can get yourself in a pickle. Left wing and right wing. Well, what's right wing? National Socialists. Oh, socialists, they're right wing, are they? Oh, when was that? You know, and the whole system has been incalculable. Has been permeated by all this stuff, and it's now getting louder and louder and louder and louder, and people are getting very scared. It's getting terribly scared. Yeah, and they're getting scared into sort of a numb state of inaction, and that's what people, if they want to know how to look after themselves going forward, they've got to get active. And I don't mean you have to go, I'm an activist, blah, blah, blah. None of that. Personally active. You have to get out there and get moving, because there's a lot of opportunities, and don't let people scare you out of them. I mean, a classic example of that investment I'm trying to bring back to what we should be talking about was 2008. All right, it all crashes and it's all terrible, and in comes the regulators and sorts it all out, and off we go in a recovery. You would not have read that about that recovery. You would not get many articles saying, you've got to buy the stock market now, you'll make so much money, it's going up for the next 15 years. You wouldn't have heard that at all. You would be going, oh, it's going to crash again. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, no. Oh. And you'd stay on the sidelines. You'd have missed the biggest bull market in the history of markets. Yeah. And there you'd be sat there, not made a penny. Yeah. Poor, inflationed away. Even more terrified, because now you've probably got a reason to be terrified because you've got no money. Yeah. Whereas anybody that said, let's go, would have made a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money, and now be smiling, really. So, and I think that's going to be much more the case, much more the case. And AI is going to create this gigantic economic boom. And if you go onto the internet right now and look, AI, it'll say, oh, we're all going to be unemployed and no one's going to have a job, and be a plumber. That's another one, by the way. That's another propaganda thing coming out from your adversaries. Don't go to university. No, you don't want to do that. You'll have lots of debt, and then all bad things will happen to you. No. Just don't get an education. It'd be better if you didn't. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So and you can actually, when you see these memes, try to trace them back. If you don't believe me, just try to trace them back. See where that leads you, and you'll go, oh blimey, who are these people? Oh, it's a load of people from a strange land. So anyway, it's all out there. But the thing is, be very, very skeptical. Study and finance, because that's the place where the money's to be made. Because I was a kid, my father was a big trader, and he told me as a little kid at his knee, he said, look, son, this is the way it works with markets. You just got to be right. You ring up your broker in the morning and put your orders in, or ask him what's going on. You say, old days, it's just telephones only. And, you're either right or wrong. And if you're wrong, you lose money. And if you're right, you make money. And that's all there is to it. And there's nobody else to get in your way. There's nobody to steal from you. You just, buy and sell, and you're either right or wrong. And that's, as far as he was concerned, was one of the simplest situations in the world. There's no politics between you and the market anyway. And, that kept it simple. And it is simple. You're either right or wrong. It might be quite difficult to be right, but for some people in particular, but for others, it's, it can be learned. I mean, there are some people that I've met who cannot get arrested in the market. They always buy at the top and always sell at the bottom. They always get it wrong. It doesn't matter if this thing is going to fly to the moon. They get it wrong because they're just, the opposite of how you should do it. And they can't be told. And it doesn't matter what you tell them, they take no notice, and they get it wrong. Okay. So there are a small group of people like that, but most people, if they're diligent, study, they will make, a very, very good solid returns. And what's better than studying maths? basic maths. I mean, or even non-basic maths. I mean, study. So many people in the game of investment have no clue, none. You only need a little to do okay. If you've got a lot, you do very well, and it's all written down. It's not like there's any. You don't have to go on a £2,000 course or £10,000 course and be told by some whiz kid, or not so whiz kid, not so kid anyway. What you should be doing. There's books, 100 years of books.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, it's amazing how much information there is. And to your point, at the end of the day, regardless of the political arena, what is going on with society, um, you know, being financially astute and understanding the markets is really the best hedge to, uh, you know, enhance your personal sovereignty, et cetera.
Yeah,
And
it's not just an edge;
I
it's a whole weapon. It's a whole
yeah,
toolbox of weapons. Because at the end of the day, if you've got money, if you haven't got money, you're not free. And if you've got money, you're free. Yeah, and real freedom is in money. Money's power. Power is life. Yeah, and at the end of the day, there's only one other thing. Well, if you've got money, you can do what you please. Yeah, and it's always good to do what you enjoy. If you have to work, if you have to have a job, do what you enjoy, or work your way towards being able to do what you enjoy. Yeah, and the best way to work your way to do the things that you enjoy is to study. And I suppose I was about in my late 20s when I just got rid of my television. And literally, I got, for certain reasons, I had no television and never got it back. And all I did was study. And I've been studying for the next 40 odd years. And it's amazing what 40 years of study can do for you, even 5, let alone 10. Yeah. And all things come from that. Knowledge is power, and money is power, and knowledge is money, and money is knowledge. No, it's not. But it's all there to be had. And as you said, you're a creator now. You made yourself, and you could be watching television now. You realize that. You could be watching a murder mystery thing, or some cop show where someone gets shot in the head. There are bound to be plenty of shows tonight where people get shot in the head. Yeah, or something really terrible happens. You could be doing that instead. And instead, you're going to make money. Hopefully, you're going to learn something. Maybe not from me, but you might do. And you're elevating yourself. Yeah, and that's the game, isn't it?
absolutely, absolutely. Clem, is there anything else that you'd like to share? And I also will add, I've really been enjoying the conversation and hearing your dissertation, kind of high level overview. How can people learn more about you and get in touch with you? And then also, if there was anything else
Well, I've got to
that you'd
say, I
like to
don't
share.
normally talk this stuff. I'm not blooming like Yoda. I do markets and I do them quite well. But again, it's about having a view that has some sort of leverage into reality, because Fantasyland is a very, very poor model to have in the markets, because the markets are very, very logical, very, very clear cut. And people can get a very expensive education trying to learn it, when they actually can get a pretty cheap one by just, as I say, buying a few classic books, mind you, classic books on it, and reading them. Read a book. Oh, sacre bleu. So anyway, it's Clem Chambers Alpha, and I'm normally talking about things like gold and silver, platinum, palladium, and various American stocks and global situations which people should think about. But what I don't do, but people think I would do, is I don't tip. I might say, for example, I bought Lockheed Martin, which I said on this, but it's not that I bought Lockheed Martin, it's why I bought it and what the thought process behind it was. So I really try to major on the whole thought process that leads you to a certain point of view. So I did one today, which is silver and gold are going mental. And I broke down what could be causing it. I didn't say what was causing it. I didn't come up with a conclusion, but I came up with 2 potentials of why on a Thursday, and not this Friday, fortunately, gold behaved strangely. And people can go through that thought process and go, yeah, no, it's not that. Maybe it's this, or come up with a completely separate idea. So, in another video, I did something about how to be a contrarian investor. And what was beautiful was one of my viewers, one of my subscribers said, what about Harley Davidson? And the answer was, that's great. Harley Davidson is great, but not yet. And this is the reason why you would be watching Harley Davidson going forward, to think about buying Harley Davidson. So it's not about buying Harley Davidson. It's about what you do now that you've found it as a prospect, how you take it from prospect to buying or not buying it. Yeah. So it's all about processes, having ideas and systems, and a mindset. Because in the end, it's all about a mindset. And, the old joke about, to give a man a fish, he eats for the night, and teach him how to fish, and he eats for the rest of his life, is absolutely true. And so that's what my channel, that's the angle that I take. And I do the same thing on Substack. But, the markets are, and the whole of society and the markets have entered a new epoch. And it's going to be a very exciting epoch. And that excitement is going to be a great adventure. But for a lot of people, it's going to be terrifying, because they're going to be consuming the wrong media. They're going to be consuming all the terrifying media, which they want to watch. I mean, if I put up a thumbnail on my YouTube that says terrible, 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 oh, end of the world, I will get 3 times as much traffic. So there is a demand for it, but you should avoid that. Like, at all possible, you should avoid frightening yourself and being scared. Don't go to the horror movies. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, Christian, but the biggest queries for movies are people trying to find horror movies to go to. Don't be that person. Don't go to horror movies. Go to nice movies with nice characters and happy endings. And, and that is a step certainly to take in this world, because, a lot of people are being made very unhappy at very least. And we all know people that are being driven pretty much mad by all this stuff. So avoid that like the plague. Avoid that. Study. And if you can become a creator of one form or another, that is the future. Because in the future, the economy is going to be about consumers of media. It's been consumers of things, and creators of media. And, that is the place to be, because that is where you're going to really achieve and prosper. As a consumer, well, I have this image of the future of people slumped on sofas watching their big television and nothing else. And don't be that. Be a influencer with a camera. That's where I've just come from, this glacier, and there's all these influencers taking their videos by the glacier. So, it's an economy, it's out there. I think there's something like 2,000 people making more than $1 million on YouTube alone a year. So it's a real thing. And there you go. Be on the front foot, be economically active, and you're going to have a great time.
100%, 100%. I'll just comment on that last bit there. You're alluding to the attention economy, and I remember hearing that from somebody. And I also read a book. I'm blanking out on the title of it. Written by a Silicon Valley Indian gentleman, and he just mentioned how media and code with regard to like software, and I guess to some extent the financial world, has the highest degree of leverage of any vehicle that you can do in business. And I never forgot that you can create a piece of content and it works for you as you sleep, and it can hit it can impact millions of people, and there's just so much leverage that you get that you just can't derive from a lot of other working.
Well, you're
methods,
living the dream, Christian. You are living the dream. And look at me. I'm 62. I started a YouTube channel 3 months ago. I won't even say how much money I'm making, because I've got a lot of money already, but I'm getting even more now. But I'm 62, and I just started a channel November the 1st. So it's there to be had. It's there to be had. Yeah. And nobody cares if you fell. Nobody will see it. It's you can run down the road naked at 4 a.m. in the morning and nobody will see you. And,
Yeah,
that is, so you don't have to worry about it. But anyway, as I said, fear is the mind killer, to quote Dune. Fear is the thing that will do you the most damage. So have no fear, get on with it, crack on, and, economically active, which is the same as cracking on, and you will do well.
100%. Well, Clem, it's been great having you on. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and I look forward to reconnecting with you here before long.
Yeah, look forward to it, Christian. Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the show, I encourage you to like, share, and follow if you found value in it. I also have a new show called Markets with Christian White, which is exclusively focused on the financial markets. If that is something of interest to you, I encourage you to check that out. And I always look forward to hearing your feedback and thoughts. And until next time, take care and be well.